Ahead on CBC at 6, Keeping the Faith.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Jewish communities in Ontario's remote north struggle to maintain their traditional heritage. Celebrating Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. In big cities like Toronto, home to more than 100,000 Jews, that's easy to do. But in remote areas, it's a whole different story. Steve Pakin has a story now of one community's efforts to keep the Jewish faith alive.
If you want to learn something about Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, this is usually a pretty good place to come. At least, that's usually the case. We're here to do a story on the Jewish community in the Sault. You know anything about it?
Jewish community? I don't know of any.
There is a Jewish community here?
Oh, not that I know of. It's not publicized, or it's not promoted, or I've never heard of an organization of it.
No Jews here, they're all Italian. In fact, for almost a century, a tiny Jewish community has struggled to survive in this rugged, isolated part of northern Ontario. Tonight, they gather to celebrate Chanukkah, the Festival of Lights. And what you see is pretty much the entire Jewish community, not just for Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, but also for its American twin, Sault, Michigan. There are only about 35 Jewish families left in the Sault. That's just enough to keep the town's only synagogue alive, but perhaps not enough to ensure that 100 years of tradition and culture will continue for another generation. It would be easy to think that Sault Ste. Marie's Jewish community is fighting a losing battle, that inevitably this community will eventually disappear. After all, across northern Ontario, the landscape is littered with Jewish communities which once thrived, but have since withered away.
In this here block here, we had Richardson's Ladies Wear. We had Rosenstein's. Connell Furs was Jewish.
Murray Davis has lived in the Sault for all of his 69 years. He says part of the Jewish community's legacy to the Sault has already died. How many years are you here?
I was here since 1941.
Murray Davis remembers when he first started working in the family clothing business. It was a time when many Jewish families were among the Sault's most prominent merchants. Davis's father opened the family's original clothing store in 1920. In those days, it was traditional for one generation to pass the business on to the next. But times have changed. Both of Davis's children left the Sault for Toronto. And now, the old clothing store is an office building for the federal government.
As kids move away to bigger cities, nobody wants to take over the parents' business. And that's, I guess, evolution.
But if one Jewish way of life has disappeared, another may be taking its place.
Is it still too hot?
The Jaffit family moved to the Sault from Toronto a year and a half ago. Joan is a teacher. Her husband, Alan, manages technology development with the Ontario Lottery Corporation. Jewish retailing may be disappearing, but the community hopes to survive with a new breed of younger professionals like the Jaffits. Joan Jaffit says the red carpet treatment her family's received from the Jewish community has been touching.
It is a small community, and therefore everybody is important. And I suppose they were particularly excited because we have children. And in many of the Northern Ontario communities, there aren't families with young children.
Other Jewish communities in the north have discovered that no children means no future. It's happened in Timmins and Kirkland Lake. The synagogues close. The community falls apart. The Sault's Jewish community hopes it can avoid that fate. Every Sunday, 20 children gather at the synagogue to learn Jewish history and Hebrew. If some of these kids stay in the Sault, the community can continue to survive. Chances are, of course, most of them won't stay. They'll be lured south like so many others, frustrated by the Sault's poor economic prospects.
You can only do so much, but if there's no employment opportunities and a bleak future, then it's fair to move on.
What we have to hope for is timing, that the people who are excited and willing to do this happen along at the right time to carry on.
Somehow, against all odds, this community has managed to do just that for almost a century. Steve Paikin, CBC News, Sault Ste. Marie.